Good evening, everybody. I hope you had a good work day, if you had work today. So, as mentioned in the previous session, the motivation setting is really important, right? Basically, what we are doing before is we are offering the mandala to the great masters, previous masters, the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and all of them. And after that, we are also doing the taking the refuge, keeping the refuge, three jewels as our proof that whatever motivation we do it for the benefit of others, right? I, as a, what do we call, teaching or just sharing my thoughts, and you all as whoever has are listening, whatever virtues we do, we are offering it for the benefit of others, right? Our betterment of the self. So generating that type of motivation is of course important. No need to, it sounds repetitive, but that's what Buddhism is about, right? The main focus is motivation, what motivates you, right? So as we started the previous session with a quote and have made it like a tradition, new type of tradition. So let's start again with a new quote, right? This is like a quote sharing session. So we share from the great master Shantideva. And here we say the person whose mind is distracted lives between the fangs of the afflictions, right? So simple, yet so deep, right? This is how the great masters of Nalinda were. Like they know how to give the shortest of the shortest sentences and give the profound knowledge in depth in it, right? So I would like you to your mind to be not be distracted and let's relax on the quote for 1 second, like see what it means, right? When you look at that quote, maybe the imagination comes like you between a fang, somebody's fang, right? Somebody, there are two fangs. What scares you the most? Maybe snake. Snake has two fangs, and that snake is going to bite you, and you are between that fangs. And it is not exactly a comfortable place. Some of you may find it comfortable, but it's not a comfortable, even in imagination itself, right? So here, what Shantideva is saying is what we are learning in current century, current time, our minds are under attack, right? What it's not by external enemies, but by our own patterns of distraction and afflictive excitement, right? So this is Shantideva's very polite way of saying when our attention is hijacked by all the objects that are there, the afflictions have us by their fangs. So here he isn't scolding. He is saying that if attention wanders, the old habits of ourselves, right? Like attachment and anger and all of this comes back itself. So basically, uh, getting a free ride. So today, as Billy is going around, we'll be practicing how to not distract ourselves. This is a good practice, no? Actually, turning the turning the situation into a practice, right? So let's try to get not distracted by that. And let's so since I think this is a really good example of how Billy is giving us the practice of distraction so that we can learn from it, right? But this is a good, before we start, it's a really good good point to note because we will come back to that again, right? So here, what Shantideva is basically saying, we should not be distracted. If we are distracted, the quote came at the right time. I think this quote came at the right time. So here, what he's saying, we must learn to not distract our minds, basically learn the language of our minds, right? Which is Lorik itself. It is the language of our minds. Think of it as a manual where it's naming each of the gears, right? Uh, Suppose you have a watch, you like mechanical, some of you may like mechanical watches, right? Instead of smart watches, or some of you may like cars or um, like machinery. In that machinery, there are different types of gears that work, right? Mechanical gears that work. So basically, what he's saying, learn the language of your gears. Learn to name the gears of your mind. Once you are able to name it, then you will be able to know what you want to do with it. Whether it's something that's to be eliminated, reduced, or it's something to be cultivated, generated more, or have more muscle reps with it, right? So we have already talked in the previous sessions about doubt, anger, attachment, and jealousy. And after talking about jealousy, we talked why it. After talking about attachment, we talked how it causes jealousy, how anger can cause jealousy. Now, here, attachment and anger can also cause the afflictive distraction and excitement, right? Secondary. And this is like the one of the secondary, two of the secondary afflictions that's there. So, in short, distraction is our attention scattering all over, which already has happened. And excitement is a uplifting mood, uplifting, not afflicting, the uplifting mood that when we have want to do something that arises, right? That uplifting emotion that lets our mind run towards the attractive objects or attractive situations, ideas, or so on. So, of course, you all may have experienced one of these today or right now, right? Maybe when you are going to work today, right? You are in the work. Did any of you have meeting today? Okay, nobody. Okay, so nobody. So maybe not even a meeting, like you have a session or like you are doing some type of work, you are in the computer and your mind is you are looking at the computer, your mind is maybe somewhere else, right? So of course this we have all experienced in our lifetime. It is not something abnormal, it is something we all have, right? So also we may have had that thought when we are about to sleep. Basically when we are about to sleep, we must have our mind slow down and just rest, right? But we are distracted by the other thoughts of what could be, what should have been done. So, distraction. So, basically, what we are saying here is a mind left unguarded, letting it go wherever it goes, is easily bitten by the fangs of afflictions, right? Fangs of afflictions. And if it is guarded, the fangs of different types of afflictions won't attack us or we won't be bitten by it, right? So even though the distraction can grow out of all three poisons, um, but it's more towards the attachment side, and especially excitement grows is taken into effect only when the attachment is there, right? So it's one of um, the root cause of attachment causes the excitement to arise. So what we will do here is we will use the same method for all the things that we have talked about. We have talked about. We are going to use the same identify or definition of what is exactly distraction or afflictive distraction or excitement, and recognize how it arises, how both of these arise, right? Where does it come from? What suffering does it create? And the antidote that we can use to reduce it, right? So definition here, the what do we call the technical definition, of course, is here. Associate with any of the three poisons. It is a mental factor that causes the mind to scatter around and be distracted and from its object of focus, right? Suppose it doesn't let us be in the present moment. Suppose we have a work to do, but we are planning about the holiday trip, right? So its function is to waver the mind from its virtues, deeds, or objects, or so on, right? So, so basically, distraction is your attention wandering towards objects, different objects, right? You can stay one pointed in that one object or the one task that you have to do. So, of course, it's listed among the 20 secondary afflictions. This is one of the 20 afflictive uh, secondary afflictions, right? So distraction here itself is when it arises, it causes the mind to lose its ability to stay focused, stay in one object, right? When this distraction happens, we know that it should be in the present, it should be here, but distraction causes it to go somewhere here, right? So, and the interesting part here is you don't even know that you are distracted, right? You're already distracted. Maybe right now, you are thinking about the 11/11 sale, 11/11 sale, right? I think 11/11 is going to come, right? What's the date today? November 5. So maybe 6 more days. Maybe distraction is coming there. Like, what should I buy in the 11/11? And that's also, in a way, excitement, right? Excitement about what sale is going to be there. There's something I want to buy, right? Maybe that is going to on a sale in the 11/11. So, yeah, basically, what distraction does is it doesn't let us focus here. It focuses on the other, right? So, and we don't even know it's happened. That's the interesting part here. So, it's like when distraction happens, a part of your awareness is offline, right? It's offline, it's not working, and it's not aware that you have been distracted unless you bring yourself back and towards the situation itself. This is a problem we all face, right? Whether it be in the studies, right? We cannot focus on one thing for too long. We need to, our mind just scatter around and we forget and we suddenly come back and think, what was I talking about? Right? We go to a room to get something, and when we are in the room, because we are going there not for the single focusedness of our mind that we want to get that thing, and between going from point A to point B, we have a lot of scenarios already gone in our mind that when we are in the room, we forget, "Oh, what was that I was going to get?" Right? This has happened to us, right? This is in a way because of our mind getting distracted and not focusing on one object that we lose our ability to focus on what's there. So, of course, if you have read a book, okay, this has happened to me a lot of times during Gelug examination. We read a book, right? We read a book, then we are reading. 5 minutes has passed, 10 minutes have passed. Then suddenly you have almost finished the 2 pages or so on. But then you are suddenly here thinking, what did I just read? Of course, that has happened. And even in the sessions, it may be you're listening. Then again, suddenly, what was I listening to? Right? Of course, this has happened to all of us. So here, what we are doing is we are thinking that we are reading or we are thinking that we are listening, but it's basically your eyes or your ears just being open and you're not observing it, right? So, so that's it doesn't arise of its own. There are a lot of causes for it, right? We are training it on a daily basis. So it can arise from attachment and it can arise from anger and it can arise from ignorance, right? So what we need to do here is we need to differentiate between distraction and excitation, right? So excitation is scattering towards an attractive object, right? Is included only within the attachment, right? It's only caused by attachment. Whereas distraction, on the other hand, can be caused by all of the three poisons, three main poisons, right? So that's the thing. But also there is a Lori becomes a little bit more complicated when you talk about all this, right? So basically we need to know three things. There is difference between excitement and there is difference between excitement and distraction. And there is also a difference between scattering of our wandering mind or scattering mind and distraction. So these three are different. Which three? Again, I'll continue once more. Distraction. Second one is excitation or excitement, right? Third one is scattering mind or wandering mind, right? These three are different in a way. So knowing Lori basically lets us know what's the difference between these three. Which one is the one that is allowed a little? Which one is the one that is not allowed, right? That is not allowed or causes us harm in the sense. So distraction is only non-virtuous. It can be because it's a part of secondary, right? And excitement also is not virtuous, but wandering mind can be virtuous. Okay, so interesting, right? So that's the thing. We have the technical definition, but we want to know the differentiation between these three. Okay, as I know my assistant will write it down. So that's the thing. There is when we are distracted. So basically, when we are distracted, we cannot focus on the one thing, and it's somewhere here, somewhere there. So why does distraction happen, right? Why does distraction um, happen? So Buddha basically says it happens because we are not in the moment. We are attached to the pleasure, right? Attached to good objects, good results, good ideas, and so on. And basically, because of that, the distraction happens. It can be caused by the three poisons, of course, that I've already mentioned that. So it can arise from the three poisons. That's the main thing here. So let's say how it arises from attachment. We have a pleasant memory, right? Pleasant memory, maybe a conversation, a vacation, or a previous 11/11 sale, right? Where you got the best deal out of the shopping sale that's there. a piece of music, right? And on the other side, we have the thing we are supposed to be doing, the work we are supposed to be doing, right? Or the meditation that we are supposed to be doing. So, which one do you think the mind will get pulled towards? The more pleasant one that you feel it is, right? If you feel the scrolling of Instagram reels is more pleasant than meditating, then your mind, even though you are meditating, in your mind, you are scrolling the Instagram feed, right? So that's where distraction comes from. Distractions and what do we call distraction and excitement, they can have a common footing, right? They can have a common footing, but they are not exactly same. So, but the tricky thing about distraction is what we are thinking about is not actually happening now, right? When we are distracted, we are remembering it or we are fantasizing about it. We are like creating a story around it, right? But our minds in that moment treats it more real than what we are doing right now, whatever is future, right? What an amazing thing would it not be if we were all able to stay in the moment itself. Suppose we have to do this task, we just focus on that task. And that finishes, then we think of something else, we think of doing that, right? But our mind, there was a trend basically where I think in the, I don't know when, but there was sometimes saying that multitasking is great, right? Advertisement of multitasking in a way. So, in a way, multitasking is creating a lot of distraction for yourself. You are not being present in the moment. So, that's what distraction is, right? So, same for right now, what I gave the example was attachment causing us distraction. Same goes for anger, right? Suppose you are angry when you come in here because of your workload that's given to you, or some client, or some teacher, or some classmate not having the correct, uh, what do you call, situation with you, and you come in here. Then instead of being in the moment, then you are distracted by that action that has already happened, right? And in your mind, you are still in that mode where you are not in the moment and thinking of whether the future or the past. So, so the root driver or root cause of distraction arising is because of our attachment, anger, and ignorance. Suppose we don't know something, we don't know what to do, then instead of being focused on the task, we think of what can we do, what can we do. Then we don't know something, then that causes a distraction on itself, right? So that's the thing. Uh, this I have experienced personally also, right? Distraction is like a global phenomena that's there. So when we go to class and the teacher is teaching, right? The teacher is teaching and all, but maybe the subject is in a way a little bit easy, then he's talking about the categories of lorry as I'm talking about right now. And then then I was thinking about, okay, so when I go home, what would I eat? Right? That's not being in the moment. That's in a way distracting. Your mind is not in the moment. Your mind is not focused and it's distracted towards the tastiness of the food and the planning of the food and all this, right? There's attachment that's arising from attachment. So, and suddenly the teacher asks, and what do you think of this? Then I am like, I don't have an opinion. That's the best answer, right? And of course, this has happened to me in like a class setting, and then we know that how important it is to be in the moment, right? And the teacher themselves were really skillful enough to bring me back to the moment, right? Then suppose you are in a meeting, same thing happens. Your boss is talking. Then suddenly your mind is in a vacation, right? All the planning vacation. And suddenly the boss asks you, so uh what do you think? Right? Suppose they name you out and they ask you, what do you think? Then you are like, huh? What? Maybe the reaction may be like that, right? So you you have basically what will happen is you will have no idea what was being said. You don't know the context. You try to formulate a context, but of course it's just been lost, right? So this in a way causes the distraction here causes first we miss the information that's being handed out, right? In the beginning, even though it may not be good enough, but there may be some information that's beneficial to you, then we miss out on the information. Then we'll have to fake, right? We'll have to fake to act as if we know it, what's being said, and it causes us stress, right? Suddenly, when somebody asks you what do you think, then you are in the stress of everything's going on. Like, what did he say? Trying to remember, even though you cannot remember, right? So, secondly, you are not present with the people in front of you. You are not present with the people with you. So that in itself causes a way to what we call disconnect, right? Disconnect with the people around you. You don't understand the context, or you don't understand the nuances that's there when connecting with people, right? So, of course, uh, you may all have experienced this while you are talking, somebody is scrolling the Instagram feed, right? Of course, this is a normal, this has become a new normal for the right that we are here. Then that time, of course, some of me may be so used to it that it feels normal, right? But in a way, it's there that the connection is not happening, right? So that's the thing. That other person may feel your absence in the moment, right? We feel that. Of course, we feel that. We may not voice it out so much, but we feel that, right? So, thirdly, we are training our mind to not be in the moment, not settle, right? Each time we let our distractive thoughts win, basically we are doing the bicep curl again, right? Of the bicep, we are curling the bicep of the distraction, right? So it's like a muscle, basically. So in meditation, this is specifically what to call obvious, obvious. Like when we are meditating on something, suddenly we are planning what to eat at 5 o'clock, what to eat at tomorrow, what should I be doing next in this week, month, year, and all this, right? So, so, so the suffering of distraction causes us twofold. Immediately, you miss the present, and you may cause small harm to the others, like even though because you are not paying enough attention. The long term consequence here is we are training our mind to be more distracted, right? So that's what's plaguing us right now during this time, right? Of course, I'll talk about this more. Basically, we are distracting ourselves a lot through doom scrolling, through like unstoppable feeds, right? Infinite feeds. So that's the thing. We are training our mind to be more distracted. Then we can see the phenomena around us. Like previously, people used to be more in connecting with the people. They can just drink the previous generation or the older generation can just drink tea, talk with each other for like 1-2 hours, right? Sit in the moment. We can see that, right? But the new generation are restless, right? Certain type of when we talk, we suddenly need some type of. I'm not saying it's a problem, but it is a problem. So this is how we have shaped the society to be, right? Instead of the human connection, we need the distraction more, right? So that's the thing. Sometimes we distract ourselves. Of course, we distract ourselves to get rid of the stress. Instead, here, what's happening is we are not treating the stress, but we are just ignoring the fact that we have stress, not acknowledging it and not treating it from the root, but instead just ignoring it and creating another type of mental struggle, right? So here, what Lorik does is really profound, where it names this distraction, it acknowledges that it's there, it doesn't deny that it's there, but acknowledges it and tries to get rid of it, eliminate or reduce it, right? So that's the thing. So that's the causes that cause the distraction to arise. Basically, your attachment towards something and anger towards something and ignorance or something. So what we can do is, but we have already painted a very dark picture of distraction, right? So, but the good news here is this is not a illness that's untreatable, right? Untreatable. Like Buddhism has some solutions or antidotes towards it. So actually lots of them, right? So basically the antidote, one of the antidote, of course, here is mindfulness. Mindfulness is in a way like being in the moment, right? Feeling the moment. So of course, when we practice mindfulness, we are we need its partner introspection to know whether we are getting distracted, either whether we are staying in the current moment of not. So basically, two practices, classical practices that are antidotes of the distraction, right? One is, of course, mindfulness and its partner introspection, right? Or vigilance. We call it vigilance also. Is it vigilance? Vigilant introspection. Yeah. Vigilant introspection, which is basically in a constant state of mind where you are questioning yourself again and again, where you are distracted or not. So think of the mindfulness as a shepherd, general shepherd watching the sheep go somewhere. And the introspection is noticing when the sheep has gone astray, right? So mindfulness basically focuses on the object, and the vigilant introspection notices when that sheep has gone astray. So you need this to be less distracted, right? This is the antidote of distraction, and of course, it's also the antidote of what do we call? It can be an antidote of excitement also. So, and here's how it works in meditation, right? You sit in a stance, you are focusing on your breath, then your mind is wandering towards the food or Instagram reels or some meme that you have just seen. Then the introspection notice, oh, you are wandering, and takes that object, catches it, catches your mind, and brings it back to the object that you are supposed to meditate upon, right? Or the task that you are supposed to meditate upon. So that's the moment that we are looking for. That's the antidote that we are looking for, right? The noticing part. The noticing part itself is the antidote here. So, so We must not bring it back forcefully on the object, but just notice we are distracted. Now, welcome back. Welcome back to the object that we are working upon, right? So it's almost like a mother knows that the child is going out. Some mothers may scold, right? Don't go out, come in. But some mothers, they do gently. So basically what we need to do here, if we are meditating on it, we call it back gently. Not be so judgmental about it, right? It's going out. It's so bad. It's coming, right? So in daily life, this of course means like developing a habit of checking in with your mind, right? Instead of checking the notification, like how many likes of a post you have got, how many like likes that other person has got. Instead of checking that notification, we are checking our own mind's notification, right? We are basically making our mind a notification channel where there is a red light appears. Usually it's like that, right? In the apps, there's that bell type of icon, and whenever there's a new notification, that bell type of icon shows up, or something number one comes up, like how many notifications you have had. Similarly, here, what we need to do is whenever mind is distracted, we need a red type of notification to show us, right? Somebody to show us a notification to know that we have been distracted, right? Sometimes, even if we have no notification, we have that phantom notification, right? Okay. You heard, suppose there is an interesting theory, right? Most of the iPhones have the same notification sound. So what does that trigger? One iPhone notification comes in, most of the people that have iPhones are suddenly looking for their iPhones, right? In a way, this is in a way, big companies doing their work, right? It's working as exactly as it's supposed to work, how they made it work. There is a reason behind the making it same, right? Otherwise, they could have made it different. Then once you hear the notification, your mind looks at the phone and sees there's no notification. Then you open the app and just refresh everywhere until you get a notification, and the cycle starts again. Okay, so that's the thing. So whenever we are doing this, we we make it a habit of asking ourselves, where is it? Where is my attention? Is it where I'm focused, where I should be, right? Is it where it should be in the moment? We are always asking this question. Then, knowing the emotion of attachment, anger, and all this, knowing this, we can capture it, right? If we don't know about anger, if we don't, okay, I'm getting tongue twisted here. If we don't know how to name the emotions that has arisen, then we don't know how to catch them, right? So that's the thing. So when listening to somebody, you you again ask, okay, am I actually listening to them, or am I just basically when somebody says to you, maybe somebody can say to you, okay, this is your problem, this is this, right? Then in your mind, maybe instead of listening to them, you are already rehearsing what you are going to respond, right? So that's not being in the moment. That's not practicing mindfulness. It's you you instead of hearing them and what's the scenario, what's the background and everything, you are already rehearsing how to respond, which has not actually happened. After they finish, then you can start to rehearse what you are going to do, right? But we plan before. So that's the thing. Here was the main antidote for is the noticing part, which we in the technical term we call it vigilant introspection, right? Noticing when the mind is astray. This I find in the Lamrim text also, like all this distraction, excitement, and of course laxity, and all of these are mentioned because these are the problems that the beginners always face, right? If you are a practice practitioner, there's no need for all this naming and all this. But as a beginner, we need to know all this. So that's the thing. So another classical antidote for distraction is contemplating on the faults of distraction. Like similarly to attachment, we have like contemplating the faults of the object of attachment on the objects of attachment, right? Here we can contemplate the faults of distraction, right? So we usually in Buddhist training, there is always this training called contemplating on the faults of that emotion, right? Whichever emotion is there. Suppose like uh, in the chapter 3, we talked about anger in the chapter 3 of Madhyamika uh, from Chandrakirti, right? Madhyamika from Chandrakirti, there is that they list the faults of anger, right? This is itself in a way very good way of practice. So here, when you get distracted, what happens? We are not in the moment, right? So we miss the real conversation, the connection of human to human, right? Talk. Then we make mistakes, right? Because we weren't paying attention. When your boss tells you to do something, you are in maybe like somewhere else, and when you do the work, you make the mistake. This happens, right? When the teacher give a specific instruction and you miss it, and you fail the test, right? So that's the thing. And then you feel anxious. Anxiety also strikes you because you are never fully present, right? In a way, being distracted too much causes us anxiety also because we are never present. Anxiety strikes when we think too much of the future, we think too much of the past. So when you really feel these consequences, right? You see these consequences happening to others. You see these consequences happening towards yourself, right? Then you feel these consequences, not just know them by saying it, but feel these consequences. You develop the faith on that this is wrong. Once you see that this is wrong, then once you realize that distraction is kind of costly, right? Then the conviction becomes the faith becomes one to change, right? So that's the thing. Here we have basically listed two classical antidotes, one of which is mindfulness and vigilant introspection, and another one is contemplating on the fault of distraction. Practical, what we can do for modern society, the biggest distraction right now in our lives is our devices, right? Our devices. So here, a teaching of the Buddha is really important, an ethical discipline, right? Buddha taught something called the sense restraint. Sense restraint. Basically restraining what stimuli you are getting from outside world, right? You have five senses, you are restraining that, right? Basically, we call it Ombu Yukodamba in Tibetan, which means you close the door of your senses. I'm not saying you should take out your eye, you should deafen yourself, you should cut your tongue, but you should lessen the stimuli that you are getting from the outside world. This is sense restraint, right? It means being intentional about. It means being intentional. The key word here being intentional. Being intentional about what stimuli you allow into your mind, right? This is basically the practice of Vinaya, in a way, right? Basic practice of Vinaya. First basic practice of Vinaya, sense restraint. So In his time, that meant sense restraint. In during Buddha's time and during the times where technology was not so prevalent, it meant don't stare at fascinating things, don't listen to compelling gossip, right? During his time, it's that. Right now, it means silence the notification, right? And suppose you want an email, you are going to get an email, you put a certain time where you check all the emails together and just finish it together, right? So that's the thing. And when you are focusing on some type of work, do not put the phone near you, right? So that's the thing. This is me. Actually, I'm a tech lover. I love technology, right? I love technology, how easily it helps others and how easily it makes our lives. But it's not, this isn't about being rigid, about being anti-technology, right? You'd find me as the most techist out here. This is not about being anti-technology. It's about choosing, right? What gets your exam. It's basically getting the choice on ourselves instead of being in the power of the notifications, the device, the reels that are there. We are intentionally choosing a time, right? Where, of course, it's hard to not scroll Instagram reels these days. But basically make a choosing period of time where you just scroll, let your mind distract. If you don't need to scroll, that's the best, right? Of course, we will feel a little bit of FOMO, but that's okay. So, okay, this is what basically getting control of our own life, right? Not letting the algorithms, not letting the notifications choose for you. Recently, I'm sure the recent notifications that you are giving, the recent ads that you are giving will be the 11/11 sale is coming up, right? That's the notification. Basically, that's how algorithms work. So this is this is in a way my way of dealing with all this, right? This is one of the trick for killer exam also. So basically, before the exam starts, what I do is I delete Instagram, and basically there is a time period like around from morning 6 o'clock till afternoon 11 o'clock. I silence all the notifications unless it's a phone call. The notification gets silent. Then again, 11 to 12, I'm free to use, but there's no Instagram. There's no that mindless scrolling, right? Then what I noticed for myself, I felt like I could sleep better during the Kilo exam. I felt like before, because I don't have that mindless scrolling, I don't have that. I have a timetable state for what I have to do during this time, this time, this time, right? I'm intentionally choosing when to do, and whenever I also put a basically in Apple, there is a feature called screen time, right? Like 1 hour screen time for all the social apps. I deleted Facebook. I deleted basically no. I became a real hermit, caveman. So listening this, even if not deleting them, listening this really helps me sleep better. I could sleep at the exact timing I want to sleep. I wanted to sleep at 12 o'clock. I could sleep at 12 o'clock, exact 5 minutes only, like sleeplessness, then sleep. Get up whenever I want. So that's like, in a way, showing that our minds become more relaxed. This was something that I practiced for 20 days, right? So, no, not 20 days, sorry, 2 months. So I felt I could remember things more clearly. I could be in the moment more clearly. So these are the things, and my friends and my classmates, and they all do accuse me. You are not responding to our texts. I have already told them. Then if it's important, just call me, right? We don't basically disconnect, really disconnect fully, but there's a time period that you can call me anytime. So even my sisters, even my family members always nag me about this. You are never online. You never connect with us, right? But I connect with them in a timely basis. It may seem selfish, but if there is important, all of their calls that received is there, right? But basically, I deleted all the social media for mindless scrolling. And whatever I'm going to watch, I know that this is a 15-minute video. I have 15 minutes to watch it. So we do all this to reduce the distraction, right? So it's also the things that we take pride. The mindset here is we take pride in multitasking, but multitasking too much is, I feel, like the neuroscience also says that it's not good for the human brain. Like basically, when you are focusing here and you change your focus to something, there's a drain of energy that's happening, right? So all this. So one thing at a time, right? When you are eating, you eat. And when you are listening, you listen, not eating and scrolling, right? So I think there is a study there where saying that your digestive system works better if you are not scrolling and eating, if you are just eating, right? So I'm sure that it will be hard, right? It will be hard at first, but I'm sure you notice things that you'll feel more satisfied, your anxiety will drop a little, and you will feel less envious. All of these are things that we strive towards, right? So that's the thing. So we have basically covered distraction, what causes definition of distraction, the causes of distraction, and the antidote of distraction, right? But, but distraction, we can also like give like in the text there are like six what do you call it? Divisions of uh, distraction, natural distraction relating to the sense consciousness. This is the most part that we are unable to control, right? The sense distraction. Then the external distraction, mental scattering and excitement. So basically, excitement is in a way distraction, right? So internal distraction. So there is that laxity and the crave for delicious experience of concentration, right? Basically wanting the concentration when you have the bliss of concentration, you being attached to it, right? So distraction involving distinguishing marks. So like it would be wonderful to, if person sees me as a great lama, great teacher, great student, right? Great practitioner or great listener. So, and the fifth is distraction involving non-virtuous changes, the pride of thinking as me, myself, and distraction involving attention, right? Perhaps I should give up the supreme part or higher concentration and practice on the lower ones. All of them are called distraction, but don't be too focused on this. What, as a beginner, we need to do is we need to focus on the natural distractions, the distraction caused by our senses, right? Too much stimulation of the senses. That's the thing. So I think we finish distraction now. Basically, it's doesn't distraction is something that doesn't let our mind sit in one place. It lets instead of focusing on one task, it lets us goes to another. And pauses are the three poisons that can cause it to arise. The antidote, mindfulness, vigilant introspection, and of course, like setting a boundary of what stimuli goes in you, right? So excitement. Now we go to excitement. So what exactly is excitement? Excitement, as the technical term here, is always associated with attachment, and it is a mental factor that through the force of attachment does not allow the mind to rest on the virtuous objects, but if it but scatters if here and there to many other objects, right? So what its function is it doesn't let the mind stay on one object. That's the thing. So it's a mental factor that's clinging to a pleasant moment, right? Clinging to a pleasant moment, whether it be your idea or status, deliciousness or tastiness, like a feel in the experiences, right? So here was the difference between, unlike like the real distraction that's happening, which is absent, your mind is already gone, right? Excitement is a hyper present mind. Your mind is engaged, but too happily, too happily or chaotic, like in a chaos, right? So it's almost like when this excitement happens, it's almost like you you have a dog on a leash, right? You have a dog on a leash, and the dog is always pulling towards something. It's almost like that. You are pulling back, dog is pulling forward. So it's almost like that. So uh, of course, Jeremiah has like studied great teachers, and it's a here what he has quoted is, it's a unique state of mind considered as a derivative of attachment, which pursues pleasant objects and acts as an impediment to meditative serenity. Asangas basically. Okay, it's okay. So basically, what it does is it it doesn't let us attain meditative serenity or single pointedness, right? Mind. So here, excitation, of course, this is really important if you really want to meditate on samatha, right? Knowing the excitation. If you don't know the excitation, then the practice of samatha is really hard, right? It's one of the opposing factors of samatha practice or time abiding mind practice. So here, excitation is, mm, it can be gross or it can be subtle, right? The gross excitation is scattering that involves having lost the basis object of the meditation, right? You are like has already lost the object. If you are suppose you are focusing on Buddha's statue, yellow statue, and what gross excitation is, you have already lost the Buddha's yellow statue as your meditation point, and your mind has already gone to a yellow Buddha meditation, right? You are basically, you should be meditating on the, what do you call, uh, yellow Buddha, but this excitation mind has already created a state where you are already, you maybe you already think the blue Buddha statue is more attractive, and your mind has already gone there. So subtle excitation, here we can define this excitation as subtle and the gross, right? Subtle excitation here is the scattering that does not involve losing the meditating object. We are on the meditating object, but there is not that strength of the mind, right? The strength of the mind. For example, water flows beneath the ice, right? It's like that. Ice is there, but water is still flowing under the ice. So you are already distracted, in a way, distracted or excited about other things and all, but you still have that object in the mind, right? So, so that's the thing. So I think, yeah, these are really important. Uh, so here we can also see when we are meditating, suppose after the class, after this class, maybe you have like a outing with like you are going out for a snack or something, and you are already excited about the snack, right? And then it also is that your mind is attracted to somewhere more pleasant, right? Attached to somewhere more pleasant. We know the feeling. So, and sometimes it also happens like when we are about to sleep, the excitement happens that what's going to happen tomorrow too much that we can barely sleep, right? We can barely sleep because of that. So the Buddhists say, this is, we'll have a discussion on that later on. The Buddhists say that excitement is actually a hindrance to peace. Okay, so it's in one of the hindrance to meditation, hindrance to peace. So it's conflicting, right? If there is no excitement in doing what we do, then why are we doing the things that we do? So we need to define what excitement is here carefully, right? Then we would get mixed up with the joy, genuine joy that we have what we are doing it, right? Excitement is a sudden surge of a dopamine that's there that that's not sustainable, right? You cannot be excited all the time, can you? But the gentle peace of joy of being happy of what we are going to do can always be there. So here, as mentioned before, excitement arises from attachment. That's we can we feel that we are at a heightened stage of arousal, right? Like we are in the heightened stage that we are thinking about that object or the idea or the food that we are so in a our emotions are so heightened about that object that we are not in a normal state. The problem here is even though that feels good, right? Being excited feels good, right? But happiness doesn't work that way. So it's in a way like of course excitement also arises from something that you have not done and are going to do in a way, right? Some of the excitement are like that. So it's almost like believing a mirage, or a mirage, or magician creating a water will quench our thirst. Sorry. So basically, the causes here are attachment. Of course, the same things again. Overstimulation causes us to be more excited, right? We see a lot of things and we get excited about a lot of things, right? We get excited about a lot of things. And okay, then overstimulation causes us to get our dopamine levels, as in the sense the happy hormone levels up and up and up, right? Then it's always in a way excitement is like we are searching for something new every time, right? So the results here is for us it creates restlessness, impatience because we are too excited to do that, then of course sleeping problems and all this, right? So yeah, that's the thing. So as the time is not there, maybe I'll skip all this, right? So a meditator, if you are meditating and are in a state of excitement, you cannot meditate. You are not meditating. So your mind is too heightened in the sense. Excited person cannot be in the present, right? They cannot be in the present. So their attention is always in what can be happened, what's there, what has not happened. And here the excitement that we are talking about really disguises itself as happiness or enthusiasm, right? We need to differentiate between them, right? A mild type of enthusiasm can be healthy, but a too heightened can be, because you are setting your expectations here, right? Then when it doesn't happen, you go crashing down. You come crashing down. So these are the causes, like the overstimulation and uh, feeling attracted to some things, etc. The antidotes are basically same as that. The mindfulness, of course. So, and when we are too excited of something, basically the Lamrim teaches us to practice impermanence, right? Practice impermanence. When we are too excited about something, then we are setting an expectation of something. The attachment is coming there, and we have an expectation. When it doesn't meet our attachment criteria that we have set, it comes crashing down. We cause ourselves suffering. So here, in the Lamrim teaching of Samantha practice, time abiding mind practice, so everything changes. So this external thing that I'm so excited about will change, right? So this is not being so dim and so sad. It's liberating, right? It's a fact that it will change. So when you find the, I'm not saying we should not find joy in our life. There is joy in our life. But when you really feel the impermanence of things, excitement loses its grip, right? So then you realize whether this thing, excitement, whatever expectation you have, whether this happens or not, I'll be okay, right? So that's the thing. So maybe a short practice would be you thinking about what you were excited 1 year ago, then that thing has already happened. And now how do you feel? The excitement is not there, right? A job, it can be a job, it can be a situation, right? A trip, maybe a Japan trip. So that's the thing. So this in a way teaches, this practice in a way teaches us something, right? That external things are not reliable sources of happiness. When you are practicing impermanence, this shows us not to be too excited of something, not to have, when we are too excited, we set expectations, right? So, so it's the same as when we talked about distraction. When you notice excitement arise, the first move for ourselves is to notice that it's arising, right? You are getting excited about something. Then the introspection comes here and says, oh, that's excitement, right? Your mind is racing forward. You are clinging to a future. You are clinging to something, right? So that's the key. You accept that it's arising. But here it's not that we judge it, right? We shouldn't judge it. We should not say, I shouldn't be excited. Of course, the excitement is there. And we should not be like, this is excitement. I'm failing at my practice. We don't do like that. We just think that it's coming. So once you accept it, the grip of excitement loosens, right? So that's the thing. So practice here. We have talked about the definition. We have talked about the uh, what's the thing? Causes. Now the practices is of course mindfulness and vigilant introspection, and we also can take breathing, right? Just simple act of breathing lessens the excitement. Whenever you are excited, too excited, just breathe for 10, breathe to 10 and focus on the breath, and the excitement goes down. I'm not saying you should not enjoy the excitement, but not be too excited all the time. So that's the thing. So of course, name it like previously, name it to tame it, right? Name that this is excitement to lessen the strength of the excitement. So that's the thing. I think, yeah. Actually, I wanted to do a short practice of, let's do it, right? That 2 3 months, 2 3 minutes, like 4 minutes, maybe months. Okay, then we will get distracted, right? Okay, let's try not to think of a pizza. Yeah, let's just close our eyes. Okay, let's just close our eyes. And Let's try not to think of a pizza. Let's try. Okay, don't think of a pizza. That's the only instruction I'm going to give you. Firstly, let's try not to think of a pizza. Okay, so what's happening here? Whenever I say pizza, whenever we are trying to not think of a pizza, pizza is coming into the mind, right? So similarly here, what we are doing is whenever a distraction arises, we should not focus too much on stopping the distraction. We just recognize it, we don't judge it, right? That's the example that I was trying to give here. Like not think of a pizza, then not think of pizza, then pizza suddenly, the maybe what we call a margarita cheese pizza comes in place, right? Comes into our mind. So that's the thing. But here, what we can do, just for some time, just focus on the breath, right? Not even the breath. Just close your eyes, focus on nothing, right? Focus on nothing. And whenever something arises, notice if whether it's a distraction, right? You just focus on your breath, or just let's do a focus on your breath. Just focus on your breath. And if another thoughts are arising, just think this is distraction and bring your mind back to the breath, right? Let's do it for 2 minutes. Just focus on the breath for 2 minutes. Slowly open your eyes. So whenever you are doing this type of meditation, right? This is a beginner practice meditation, right? You are just labeling whatever is arising on your emotions. Suppose when you are just focusing on the breath, if you are not able to, I'm sure, I don't know, but I'm sure some of you, when you are focusing on the breath, what should I do after I go from here today? How should I go from here? Should I go from SMRT or Grab, right? Maybe some of you may have that thoughts. Like, but basically recognizing that thoughts and again focusing back on the breath, right? So this in a way helps us improve our, what do you call, concentration. So here I want you to remember is you are not trying to become a perfect person with no distraction and no excitement. That's not the goal. The goal here is we want to be more aware of our emotions and able to generate the ability to notice when our mind is caught, right? That's the thing. So the takeaway here is basically distraction scatters attention and can arise from attachment, anger, and ignorance. Excitement chases pleasant and objects arising from attachment. The that's the main thing that we need to know. The difference between genuine joy and agitated excitement. So the 3-step method, right? Identify what's happening, like what's distraction and what's that emotion, and recognizes the cause and effects caused by the affliction, and apply the antidotes. Yeah, name it, apply the antidotes of meditation, mindfulness, and meditative impermanence, breath counting, and contemplating impermanence. So this is my mantra, name it to tame it, right? So that's the thing. And at the end, oh, don't need to write. At the end, basically, we should reduce our scrolling habits, right? It's hard, but we need to take a mindful notice of our scrolling habits and try to reduce it, right? And okay, let's go to the Jeremiah's takeaway. So the basically Jeremiah's Lamrim Chambo, right? What he has said in the Lamrim Chambo, a especially important point is until you have accomplished satisfactory concentration as explained below, it is never appropriate for you to by shifting your focus on many different types of objects of meditation, right? Basically, why I am saying we need a mindful scrolling habit is because what Jeremiah has said here. If we are always constantly shifting our point of concentration towards short reels, 1 minute, your focus shift to another reel. 1 minute, your focus shift to another reel. 1 minute, you are basically going in a brain rot or a dom schooling sinkhole, right? And you are not doing it intentionally, but it's designed that way. It's working in it how it's supposed to work to make you seek novelty, right? Novelty and newness. So here what he said is do not change your object of observation for too long when whichever object you are doing. It will cause your distraction, distracted mind, or ADHD to arise, right? So that's with that we end the session, right? We end the session, and I'll have like some questions if there is. Yeah, anybody have questions? Yes.
Rinpoche, just now you mentioned about this, we should not think about the pizza. So I'm thinking another method is we should not think about emptiness. So that means your whole mind will keep on thinking about emptiness.
But are we really thinking about emptiness, or we are focusing on the word emptiness, right? There's a difference between when we are focusing on the object or we are just focusing on its name, right? When I say don't think about emptiness, if you know the meaning of emptiness about the objects being not like inherently existence and all this, of course you will think, right? But if I suddenly say don't think about emptiness, the chance here is most of you will go towards the word or the sound that's emptiness, right? You'll just think about that. You will focus on the word more. So, of course, I would like to ask these questions down here. When I said don't think about the pizza, what did you think about? Uh-huh. Chicken rice.
Yeah, you think about pizza. So that's why I say
Yeah, yeah,
if I reverse it,
emptiness.
you make it into emptiness. So it becomes like
Yeah,
you are actually opposing what you're thinking.
yes, yes,
What it's like reverse psychology.
yes. That's good. But here we can do also like bodhicitta and everything like that, right? Don't think about bodhicitta or they think about refuge. Then you are thinking about taking a refuge. Yeah, but what the problem here is we are more attached to us pizza. Emptiness. He said, don't think about it. Okay, I won't think about this. I will think about other things, right? So that's the thing. The mind here is basically what it shows here. Since I told you don't think about pizza, but you heard the word pizza and you have associated with the taste, the feeling of eating the pizza and everything, all of this comes, right? Then whatever stimuli I have given you, basically you are getting attached to it. So that's why I started with this, because at the session I said something like, you should guard your sense restraint. If you don't guard or have sense restraint, the practice of having sense restraint, and you have constant stimuli bombarded towards you, your mind is gravitated towards that. So it will generally go towards that, right? That's why I'm opposing Instagram Reels. So, yeah.
So because I know there is a trick, you're using the pizza as a trick. So what I did was to substitute the pizza with Buddha statue.
Yeah,
So substitute with good. When you say don't think about Buddha, then you think about Buddha, right? And the Buddha is easier.
Yeah, can. That's it. You can use the tricks, right? But Buddha, of course, we have a connection of faith and all, but we don't have that sense. What do we call it? Sense feeling of Buddha. How Buddha? We haven't seen the Buddha really, right? And we haven't smelled him. Okay, we haven't like we don't know, right? We don't have the sense of Buddha. Then our sense are not accustomed or more trained towards them. So in a way, it's helpful for us to do like that. But like other stimuli, the physical stimuli, right, which we are more like attached to, like by touch or by taste or by their physical appearance, it's easier to gravitate towards that. When we don't try to think of it, it comes, right? But instead, when it comes, you just recognize it, acknowledge it's there, just let it pass, that it loses its power. When you are thinking, I don't want to be angry, I don't want to be angry, you may get more angry. So, any other questions? Yeah, at the end. Yes.
Namaste ji, Rinpoche ji. I work with teenagers, and your last takeaway, maybe could you give me an advice or a practice? Because I work with teenagers who cannot seem to stop watching reels, you see. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay. So, this is something that's a problem in the society, right? They cannot stop, really, they cannot stop in a way. But the practice here is basically what I told you, focusing on the breath, right? Focusing on the breath. First, maybe they cannot do it, maybe they cannot do it for long. They can maybe do it only for 1 minute. First, we do it gradually, because here, mind training is a process, right? First, you do it for 1 minute. Then for 1 minute, once it becomes easy, you extend it to 3 minutes. Then once it becomes easy, 3 minutes, you can just stay still and just focus on your breath. Then you focus it more upwards, right? Like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Then you gradually increase the timing. What sometimes the mistake we do here is we say, okay, for 10 minutes, you practice on breathing. Then the time frame itself becomes like a challenge for them, right? So we start from small. Then once, like for 10 days, you have done 1 minute breathing practice, right? For 1 minute, then you gradually increase it to 3 minutes. We gradually increase it to say 60 minutes or 60 minutes or so on. We gradually increase. Basically, this is in a way applying the 7-point mind training, right? 7-point mind training. 7 point, yeah, 7-point mind training. Yeah. So basically, extending your time frame to how much capacity you have, right? Slowly. That's the thing. Sometimes we have the mindset that before having the basics right, we want to jump to the highest one, right? So basically, we should have the basics right first. So slowly and gradually, right? Of course, we want to have a concentrated mind that only focuses on the current task going around, but that starts with a 5-minute training, 1-minute training. Yes. Any other? Yes. I think 3 more questions.
Thank you, Rinpoche. So, when we are trying to focus, if let's say I'm just thinking like, if we don't really have time to sit down and do a meditation, for those who are always like they're running around, can they do so while like focusing on perhaps like they're eating a meal and they are focusing on that?
Yes.
And they're reading the newspaper, they're just focusing on that. Or they are sitting on the train, they sit there and just focus on that. Like instead of having to find time, because I think a lot of us have excuses like, oh, we have no time to sit down for even 5 minutes. So can we just incorporate that sort of meditation in our daily life?
Routine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course. Sometimes we have that rigid, what do you call, visualization of meditation, right? Posture, neck straight, bend, your eyes looking at the nose exactly. If your nose is a little bit small, then you can't see the nose. Then you are stressing whether if your nose is long, like mine, then it's easy to focus, right? Then sometimes your nose is blocked, then you can't breathe. Then, of course, all these are like the rigid way of doing meditations. But in the Vinayas and everything, like the, what do you call, uh, the traditions of practicing mindfulness is not limited to this. Even when you are walking, you just, of course, not get attached to the feeling. Of course, just you can just feel the breeze flowing towards you, right? Not get attached to the feeling of the flowing of the breeze, but just acknowledging the breeze is flowing like that. Whatever you are feeling right now, being in the moment, right? Suppose you are eating, just focus on what you are eating. Sometimes when we focus too much on the eating part, we may get attached to the taste, right? We may get attached to the taste, and this is something I want again and again, but not focus on the, maybe just focus on the texture. Don't let the attachment arise. Whenever attachment arises, you do a introspection of this is attachment, this is not, this is attachment, and just let it name it so that it reduces. So that's what we can do. If you know how to practice, basically whether you sleep, eat, or walk, you can do the meditation. So meditation doesn't need to be a single pointed in meditation unless it's like a certain type of meditation for something, right? Yes, name it to tame it. Basically that. Any questions? Like one last question, I think. Otherwise, you all will be distracted again. Maybe. Yeah. Last question.
Hi, Rinpoche. Just now you talk about distraction, the pride of thinking about me and ourselves. I'm not sure I get it correct, but how do you confuse that with divine pride? Divine pride, yeah.
Okay, that's all right. So divine pride is based on emptiness and bodhicitta, right? So that is not basically the pride that we are talking about here, right? This type of pride is not based on emptiness. This type of pride is based on ignorance, right? Ignorance, the self-cherishing mind, based on that and the attachment and the clinginess that's there, right? The other one, there's not that much of clinginess. So that's the difference. Hope that helps. Yes,
Thanks.
I think, yeah, we'll stop here. Yeah, okay. 到时候今年3月9号的电动多跟了当天，切吧节尊罗山大道，电别宁波人多谁接受。 Jambe Bao Chedara Chemba Kundo Sambo Deyang Techen Deda Kunje Jeso Dalo Che Gewa Deda Tamje Rado Pesung Shebe Jawa Tamje Onwa Kanla Chodong Aba Dagi Gewe Zawa Dipyo Sambo Sheshe Rado